One thing I wish I had known earlier at a much younger age is that you don't have to abandon yourself for the feelings of others. You don't have to let go of yourself so much because you're worried about other people's feelings. It would have saved me a lot of torment, self-inflicted wounds. So I was in therapy yesterday, and I was mostly doing the therapy for other ulterior motives, to help with my housing situation. And lo and behold, it has helped a lot, even as much as meditating every day. Meditation's great, but you can also get caught in loops of disassociation. And sometimes the pains and the traumas that you're enduring need to be spoken to a person that is more qualified than you at uncovering those types of things. And I had early on in my 20s and 30s, mostly, I suffered from anger issues. Angry. People wouldn't hear me. I wasn't saying the thing that I was always looking for a new way to say the same fucking thing. And what I didn't realize is that there are people who will not hear you, period. No matter how loud you are, how angry you get, all the anger does is push people away, makes them feel that you're not compassionate enough to deal with their personal problems. And then because of that, I would take these things on as like a part of myself. And it's one of the side effects of being empathetic. And that, like I said, I've said it before in earlier videos, it comes from extremely traumatic experiences in childhood. And the thing is there's a little kid inside of you. That little kid, before it was told who to be, how to act, what religion to practice, what area to live in, what job to get, what education to have, there's a little child inside of you screaming at how it just wants to look at the sunrise. It just wants to watch butterflies. It just wants to go down the slide at the park. It just wants to jump on that swing. And we take things too seriously that we have to be adults. And none of us are. We're all screaming on the inside. We're all enduring pains that happened decades ago in some cases. So if I had ever been given this advice, I don't know what I would have done with it. That you're not your pains or your traumas. It's not good enough. You're in it. You are not the mind. You are not your thoughts or feelings. It's not good enough. You have to actually fucking experience that firsthand to realize that you've been holding on to things your whole life that have been keeping you stuck in a neat, tidy little box. And you don't look outside of yourself. That's one of the problems we have in current American culture, is that, it's either my side or the other side. It's either the blue team or the red team. And it's never that cut and dry, because nothing is that cut and dry. Life is a lot about yes or no responses. And in those yes or no's, you also understand the paradox that yes or no can be the same thing. We give way too much credit to what other people think, to what other organizations think, to where we're at based on science, based on physics, where we're at religiously or politically. But the problem is that nothing ever happens outside of us. It's always internal. And if you're struggling with things internally, you will continue to struggle with things internally until you face them. The reason why we hate boredom so much is because it's quiet. It's silent. It's not screaming at you. And in that is some type of answer. In that boredom, in just sitting there, like I've said before, you don't need a formal practice. You don't have to sit in a very specific posture. You don't have to lay down. You don't have to stand up. You can just sit there and stare at a fucking wall. Because doing nothing is doing everything. That's one of the reasons I agree with Robert Adams so much. You just simplify this whole process. And it's literally, if you can be quiet with yourself for a long extended period of time on a regular basis and make it a ritual, you can become unstoppable. Because all of the things that we're afraid of are the places that we need to go. All the places that make us uncomfortable are the things that we need to look at. Because the only reason they're uncomfortable is because you have created some opinion about them. And in that opinion, you have a feeling. And in that feeling, you tie yourself down. You chain yourself to a cage. In all reality, we should be screaming, "Wee!" all the time. Everything should be exciting and amazing and beautiful, and it's not. And it's generally because we're holding on to something that we shouldn't have to hold on to. A lot of my issues was from having a mother who faced a lot of health issues, and I had to grow up way faster than any kid should. I was doing laundry by the time I was 7. I was washing dishes, I was mopping the floor, and I'm not saying that there isn't something to be said for doing chores and having responsibilities. What I'm saying is that as a 7-year-old, you shouldn't have all of them. You shouldn't have all of the responsibilities. You shouldn't be in the fucking house doing laundry for a family of 4 and cooking meals and washing dishes and sweeping floors and vacuuming and all of the other little things that, that are more adult responsibilities, in lieu of going out and hanging out with your friends and playing. And I'm not saying that never happened. It was just not the normal in my life. My mother couldn't walk. She had a lot of issues, medical issues, and then she was also legally blind. And so she couldn't see things. And I was the one that had to read things to her or look things up or check the bill to make sure she put down the right price, the right numbers. I remember traveling with my mom back from Chicago to Minnesota in her little Volkswagen Bug. And at that point, she wasn't fully blind yet, but she was colorblind. And she couldn't see the colors of the lights. And I had to tell her what the color of the lights were well before we got to it. And I was 7 because my sister hadn't been born yet. So that's a big responsibility for a 7-year-old. That's heavy, man. That's real heavy. Oh, if you get the color wrong, we're gonna crash. Or somebody's going to crash into us. And we almost did. I wasn't paying attention because, I'm a 7-year-old staring out the window. You're trying to be amazed at life. And she's, "Oh, what color is the light? What color?" And I look over and I'm like, "Oh, crap, it's red." And by that point, we were already through the intersection. And so, yeah, there's a lot of responsibility that came on me at an early age. And so I didn't get to do a lot of the things that kids do. And then, my mother had a child when she shouldn't have, and that's how my sister came about, and that just destroyed her health even worse. Every time she got pregnant, she shouldn't even have had me. That was how bad her health was. And so by the time she had my sister, She wasn't my sister. She was my kid. I changed her diapers. I fed her. I bathed her. I did all of this stuff. And I was 8 years old when she was born. So it was heavy. And I'm not saying woe is me, but I am looking back and going, oh, well, that's why you do the things you do, you know? That's why you had anger issues for so long, because you never got to be happy. You had responsibilities. And I still have responsibilities, and I still shirk them. I procrastinate constantly because I know that that's how I do shit. That's how my life works. I procrastinate, I get to the end, and I do the best fucking job I can, and it works. Because it always has. And so I don't rely on anything other than that. I wait to the last minute to do pretty much everything in my life. And I always have. And then I realized that the reason I do that is because I want me time. I want to spend time in silence. I want to uncover the mysteries of me. Because as I said, everything happens on the inside, not the outside. Every perception, every observation, every fucking roadblock we run into is internal. It is ours. We own it. Not only do we own it, we created it. We constructed all of these walls for no reason other than to try to keep us safe from things that were never trying to get us. You know, so what I'm saying is in traumatic upbringings and even traumatic situations as you've matured, maybe you had a great childhood and everything was wonderful, and then all of a sudden things hit all at once. Maybe family member died, you lost a relationship that was really heavy, maybe you lost parts of yourself in a job. You can sit there with that until you change your mind, because the mind is never set. It's just repeating patterns like a computer. You plug in the information and it plays on repeat until you change the information. That's why it's important to look for beauty. And what I mean by beauty isn't by aesthetic standards. It is by finding how beautiful things really are, even if they're kind of ugly. I mean, we tell kids to come in and wash their hands after they've been playing in the dirt, but the dirt is a really beautiful thing. It culminates all of existence. So we need time and space. Time isn't linear. It's all happening at the same time. So you can go back and hug that little kid that wasn't treated properly by adults who didn't even know themselves, and you can embrace that child. I did yesterday. I cried my eyes out for hours and hours at the poor little kid that didn't get to live the life that he thought was necessary. And I've realized that it is not about light and peace and love and happiness. It's about the dark places and accepting those. Not as a part of yourself, but as an experience you had. And give yourself the fucking credit for getting through it. That's what your ego did. All of the bullshit that you took on, the anger problems, the sadness, the depression problems, it came from unmet expectations. And so you stop trying. You stop going in that direction because you don't think you can do it. So you don't even bother. Life can be very painful. And it is very painful for a lot of people. And it's not good enough to say, well, hey man, at least I'm not in that position. It doesn't help. It's good to acknowledge it, but it's not the end all. It's not the final destination. The final destination is getting so goddamn comfortable with yourself you could take a nap on a freight train. Being comfortable in yourself is one of the most important things. We all deserve love. We all deserve care. And we probably didn't deserve the things we thought at those crucial moments in our adolescence, in our learning. One of the reasons I've noticed this about myself is because my son does a lot of the same things. He has a very strange way of logicking things out. And it's silly and it's funny and I laugh at it. But then I look back and go, the only reason I'm laughing at it is because I've been through it and I can kind of guide him through and talk him through this stuff. Whereas I had a stepfather who couldn't identify with me at all. Literally everything I was about, I loved Eastern philosophy. He had no idea what that even was. He thought it was a bunch of foo-foo nonsense. I loved playing guitar. He thought music was just something that you listen to on the elevator or while you're drinking a beer. It wasn't the intricacy of what music really is. He thought drawing little caricatures, skulls and crossbones, things like that, was a sign of a disturbed mind, when actually it was just the sign of a creative mind. I'm creative. Most people are to some degree. Very rarely do you ever find somebody that doesn't create something, that isn't interested in some type of creation, because that is our default mode. We are little gods in little bodies that are all connected to the same fucking source. So that source, being a creator in and of itself, is going to instill upon its children that very accommodation. And it's an accommodation. These are gifts we've been given, and you hone them. That's why doing art is very necessary. It's as necessary as sitting quietly. It's as necessary as changing your fucking mind about the things that you went through. Because it's easy to say that you're not your thoughts or your feelings. And no matter how true that is, if you're in that position and you're stuck in that place, those fucking feelings and thoughts are very, very real. And they just want to be acknowledged. They want to be heard. That little 7-year-old kid that was scared shitless driving in his mom's Volkswagen when she couldn't even see what the color of the lights were needs a little bit of validation. Like, hey man, it was okay to be scared. Of course it was. And it doesn't mean that you don't love your parents. Even if they've caused you trauma, they didn't know what they were doing either. They didn't have all of this. They didn't have YouTube. They didn't have a plethora of knowledge. They didn't have audiobooks. You know, it's so easy for us to get information now. But if you think about 20, 30 years ago, it was almost impossible. You had to fucking just come across it. You couldn't research shit. You could spend weeks in a fucking library just trying to get, enough information on one subject to maybe glean some idea of it. Now, man, we have all of it. And then what do? We get stuck on social media, watching silly prank videos, distracting ourselves from the obvious. We're trying to laugh through the tears. We're trying to distract ourselves as best as we can so we don't have to face those demons that we've been fucking giving piggyback rides to for decades, depending on how old you are. But you can hold on to shit for a long time. I had a very lackluster view of my mom. And like I said yesterday, my therapy session was fucking amazing. I have a great therapist. She's extremely intelligent. She's very educated. And she waits. She's patient. She lets me get it out. And then she asks me how that feels and where those feelings are coming from and where they get stuck. So she knows about the mystical side of things. She knows Jungian psychology. She's very, very capable. And she said something that was just fucking amazing. And it was what I was thinking as I was thinking it, was that I loved my mom so much that I was trying to protect her from herself. And then I look at every fucking relationship I've had, and I love those people so much that I was trying to protect them from themselves at my own expense. I'm a very tantric person, and I always have been a very tantric person. I believe in feeling through it. I've always believed in feeling through it. If it doesn't feel right, don't do it. And some of the people I've loved in my life, I've allowed to disturb my process. I've allowed them to talk me into things that I was not comfortable with for the sake of their development. So I abandoned myself in order for somebody to find themselves. And so at this point in my life, like I said, meditation has been a very, very big asset. And I've seen mystical, mysterious, supernatural things. And I'm grateful for that. But it doesn't matter. If I'm still in turmoil, if I'm still not feeling my feelings fully, then it's just spinning tires. You're not getting anywhere. Not that there's really anywhere to go, but there are things to let go of. Things that you've carried that you don't need to carry anymore. And so that's what this video is about. It's about not holding on to things that don't belong to you. Those relationships that you had that you sold yourself out for because they were so pretty, or they were so nice, or they understood you so fully, you didn't need to sell yourself out for them. You never do. Good, quality, loving relationships, with romantic or otherwise, never force you to be anything other than yourself. You can't validate anyone besides yourself. And I do understand to a point where I have went wrong in my life. I didn't hear people the way they needed me to hear them because I was not equipped to listen to them in that way. I put way too much emphasis on my Zen training and all of the books on Zen Buddhism. Well, just don't think about it. Just don't go that way. Just don't. Well, that's fucking impossible. So I just want to make it clear that it's okay, whatever you're fucking feeling. However you're going about things is just fine. I'm not saying you have to do any type of specific practice, but I do know sitting quietly through the boredom until the boredom becomes exciting helps significantly, because things pop up. You're not trying to get rid of thoughts. You're trying to watch them. At the core of you is that 7-year-old little kid that just wants to go down the slide because it's exciting, it's fun. That little kid that wants to go to the amusement park. The little kid that wants to go hiking or fishing or jump out of a fucking airplane. That's who you really are. The one that's still in awe at how beautiful all of this is. So take away all of the things that are restricting you from doing that, from being that little kid. There were never any adults in the first place, so don't worry about being adult about anything. Be silly. Dance it out. Get funky with it. And enjoy this. Even when it's painful, enjoy it. Because that's fleeting too. We're always in just this moment, and that makes time go by very, very quickly. I'm sure you might have noticed that time speeds up and slows down at very integral moments in your life. Pay attention to that. It's a synchronicity. It's showing you a little bit about yourself that you may not have ever uncovered before. And sit in that place. Yesterday was a major, major turning point. You know, I have this very strange way of thinking that I've got this. But sometimes you do need help, and sometimes help is coming. It's not going to fix the fucking problem. If there's a problem, you're the fixer. And that's with yourself. So if there's a problem, you get to fix it. But it doesn't mean that you have to stay there permanently in whatever set of emotions you're having about it. You're allowed to have all of these feelings. In fact, I think you should feel them fully as you possibly can. I always thought that I was a big boy and I could handle it on my own. And I'm not. And neither are you. None of us are. None of us do this on our own. Even the big CEOs of Fortune 500 companies, you know, billion-dollar, trillion-dollar companies, they need other people to do things to help them make themselves even better. You know, and using like somebody like Elon Musk as an example, who I'm not a huge fan of, but, you know, kudos to him for doing whatever he's doing. He's not doing that on his own. He's hired a plethora of scientists and engineers, and, you know, it takes a lot of intelligent people to make a rocket leave the planet or to make a car drive on just electricity. So, you know, kudos to him for trying to advance technology to some degree. I don't agree with his politics or his way of looking at things. I don't really care. But what I'm getting at is that everybody needs somebody, because we can't do this on our own. Try to build a house by yourself. You're going to need a lot of levers and pulleys, because you just can't. Somebody has to help you lift the boards. So, yeah, nobody's coming to save us. We are. And the way we save ourselves is by allowing other people to help us too. When you're going through a hard time and you don't quite understand, and you maybe don't have the tools to fully integrate yourself, look outside. There are good people. You find the right people at the right time. If you're really serious about changing yourself, being a better person, not that there's any difference between people, but, you know, a better person in your eyes. And that better person is the child that you left behind. And if you want to be that child again, sometimes you might need some help. And it's cool to ask people for help. I was taught that it wasn't. And those people who taught me that were wrong. They were dead wrong. You don't have to do it on your own. So as always, I hope this helps. Leave your comments. If I can answer them, I certainly will. If I can't, I might be able to point you in another direction. As always, much love.